The cold autumn wind swept through Pyramid City, Nevada, carrying with it the anguished cries of 7-year-old Timothy as he tumbled from the rickety porch steps of the Jenkins homestead, his knee blooming with fresh blood. Sarah Jenkins rushed outside, her auburn hair escaping its careful bun, a wailing infant clutched to her chest. "Timothy, what happened?" she called, descending the steps as quickly as her exhausted body would allow. The year was 1876, and life in Nevada's high desert was unforgiving even for those with a full family to support them. For Sarah, abandoned 3 weeks prior with 7 children to feed, it was nearly unbearable. "I was just trying to fix the step like Pa used to," Timothy sniffled, wiping his nose with his sleeve as Sarah knelt beside him, balancing baby Rose on her hip. "Let me see," she said gently, examining the wound. Not deep, thankfully, but they couldn't afford another tear in his only pair of trousers. "Elizabeth," she called to her eldest, "bring me some water and a clean cloth." Elizabeth, 12 and already bearing the solemnity of someone twice her age, appeared in the doorway. "We're nearly out of clean cloths, Ma, and the twins are fighting again." Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Robert had left without warning, taking most of their money and the good horse, leaving behind only a hastily scribbled note. "Found gold in California, will send for you." 3 weeks had passed without word. The ranch was failing, the children hungry, and winter approached. "Use my petticoat then," Sarah said, rising with difficulty. "Tear a strip from the bottom." The baby continued to wail, hungry as always. Sarah felt her milk drying up from the stress and lack of proper nourishment. Inside the small homestead, chaos reigned. 9-year-old twins James and Joseph were locked in combat over a wooden toy soldier, their faces red with exertion. 4-year-old Abigail sat in the corner, quietly talking to her corn-husk doll, while 2-year-old William toddled dangerously close to the cold hearth. "Boys, stop this instant," Sarah commanded, catching William just before he reached the ash pile. The twins separated reluctantly, both wearing matching scowls beneath identical sandy-colored hair. "James, fetch water from the well. Joseph, collect eggs from the henhouse if there are any." "Pa would let us play," James muttered, but moved toward the door nonetheless. "Pa isn't here," Elizabeth reminded him sharply, returning with a strip of white cotton. The unspoken question hung heavy in the air. Would he ever come back? Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. "We'll manage," she said, more to herself than to the children. "We always do." But the truth frightened her. The pantry was nearly bare, the last of the money hidden in her boot, barely enough for flour and salt. The ranch needed constant attention, fences mending, animals tending, fields plowing, work beyond what she and the children could handle. Neighbors were scattered miles apart, and pride kept her from begging for help. As twilight descended across the harsh Nevada landscape, Sarah finally got the younger children to sleep, crowded together in the larger bed, while she would take the small cot with baby Rose. Elizabeth sat at the rough-hewn table, mending by the light of their last candle. "You should sleep, Elizabeth," Sarah said softly. "You've done enough today." The girls' nimble fingers continued their work. "Someone has to help, Ma, I don't mind," Sarah's heart ached. Childhood was slipping away from her eldest, replaced by responsibilities no 12-year-old should bear. She crossed the room and placed a kiss atop Elizabeth's head. "Your father," she began. "Isn't coming back," Elizabeth finished flatly. "I heard Mrs. Danson at church. She said men who catch gold fever never return to their families." Sarah wanted to protest, to defend Robert despite his abandonment, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she sank into the chair opposite her daughter, fighting back tears. "We'll lose the ranch, won't we?" Elizabeth whispered. Before Sarah could answer, a knock sounded at the door, 3 sharp raps that startled baby Rose into whimpering. Sarah exchanged a worried glance with Elizabeth. Visitors after dark usually meant trouble. Grabbing Robert's old shotgun from beside the door, it wasn't loaded, but the visitor wouldn't know that. Sarah called. "Who's there?" "Aaron Fletcher, madam," came a deep, steady voice. "Just passing through, saw your light, thought I'd check if everything's all right." Sarah hesitated, then cracked open the door, keeping the shotgun visible. In the dim light stood a tall man, broad-shouldered and trail-worn. His hat was tipped respectfully back, revealing eyes that seemed honest in a face weathered by sun and wind. A well-maintained horse stood patiently behind him. "We're fine, Mr. Fletcher," Sarah said firmly, though her trembling hands betrayed her. "Just settling in for the night." The stranger's gaze took in the shotgun, her exhausted face, and the dilapidated porch behind her. His eyes softened with understanding. "Forgive the intrusion, madam. Noticed your north fence is down and some cattle straying. Thought you might want to know before they wander too far." Sarah's heart sank. The fence had been on her list of worries, but she hadn't found time to check it. "Thank you for the information," she managed, already calculating how she would manage such a repair alone. The man Aaron shifted his weight, seeming to wrestle with something unsaid. Finally, he spoke again. "Madam, I don't mean to pry, but I've worked ranches all through these territories. I can tell when a place needs an extra hand." His eyes met hers directly. "You need a partner. I'm here if you'll have my help." Sarah stiffened. "Mr. Fletcher, I appreciate your concern, but we're managing just fine." A cry from inside the house betrayed her words. William had awakened and now stood in his nightshirt, rubbing his eyes. "Ma, I'm thirsty." "Just a moment, William," Sarah said, not taking her eyes off the stranger. Aaron Fletcher nodded respectfully. "Of course, madam, but my offer stands." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a folded paper. "I have references from the Collins Ranch near Carson City and Judge Henderson in Virginia City. I'm no drifter looking for easy pickings, just a man who knows ranching and sees someone who could use help." Sarah hesitated, torn between desperate need and caution. "I couldn't pay much." "Room and board would suffice for now," he replied. "Winter's coming. We could discuss terms when spring arrives." Elizabeth appeared at Sarah's side. "Ma, let him help," she whispered. "Please." Sarah studied the man one last time. Something in his steady gaze reassured her. "You can sleep in the barn tonight, Mr. Fletcher. We'll talk in the morning." Aaron nodded, replacing his hat. "Much obliged, Mrs. Jenkins, Sarah Jenkins, Mrs. Jenkins. I'll see to those strays before turning in." As he walked toward the barn, Sarah closed the door, leaning against it with a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Elizabeth, what have I just done?" The girl smiled for the first time in weeks. "Maybe saved us all, Ma." Dawn broke cold and clear over Pyramid City, revealing Aaron Fletcher already at work. Sarah watched from the kitchen window as he repaired the broken porch step that had claimed Timothy's knee the day before. His movements were efficient, practiced, the work of a man who knew his trade. "Coffee, Mr. Fletcher," she called from the doorway, a steaming cup extended. He straightened, wiping sawdust from his hands. "Much appreciated, Mrs. Jenkins." As he approached, she noticed details missed in the previous night's dim light laugh lines around his eyes, a small scar above his right eyebrow, and hands that, while calloused from work, handled the delicate cup with surprising gentleness. "I've rounded up your strays and patched the fence temporarily," he reported. "It'll need proper repair before the first snow." Sarah nodded, watching the children eat their meager breakfast inside. "Mr. Fletcher, about your offer, please call me Aaron." "Aaron, then, I need to be clear." "This is a struggling ranch, my husband." She faltered. "Has moved on," he supplied carefully. "California gold fields," she confirmed, her voice strengthening. 3 weeks ago, left me with 7 children and more debts than assets." Aaron's face remained impassive, but his eyes reflected something anger, perhaps, though not directed at her. "A man makes choices, Mrs. Jenkins. Not all choose wisely." "Sarah," she corrected. "If we're to work together, formalities seem unnecessary." A small smile touched his lips. "Sarah, then." "I've been riding the territories for 15 years. Worked every kind of ranch from Texas to Montana. I know cattle, horses, crops. If this place can be saved, I'll help you save it." "And what do you get from this arrangement?" she asked bluntly. Aaron looked toward the distant mountains. "A purpose, somewhere to be useful." He turned back to her. "I've saved some money, not a fortune, but enough to invest in seed and maybe a milk cow come spring." Sarah studied him, this stranger offering salvation. "My children come first, always, as they should." "And this is a respectable household." Aaron's eyes crinkled. "Madam Sarah, I was raised by a God-fearing mother who'd tan my hide even now if I behaved improperly under a family's roof." Despite herself, Sarah smiled. "Then we have an arrangement, Mr. Fletcher." Aaron, at least until spring. The first weeks tested them all. The children viewed Aaron with suspicion, especially James and Joseph, who saw him as an interloper in their father's place. Timothy followed him everywhere, eager for male attention, while Elizabeth maintained a watchful distance, protective of her mother. Aaron proved himself daily mending fences, repairing the leaky roof, slaughtering a pig for winter meat, and preserving every part. He moved into the small room off the barn, respecting Sarah's boundaries while integrating himself into the ranch's rhythms. By November's end, the first snow dusted Pyramid City. The Jenkins homestead looked markedly improved, windows properly sealed against drafts, woodpiles stacked high, smokehouse filled with meat, and root cellar organized with what vegetables they'd managed to preserve. Sarah found Aaron in the barn one evening, crafting something from scraps of wood. "The children are asking if you'll join us for supper," she said, pulling her shawl tighter against the cold. "I'd be honored," he replied, quickly covering his project with a cloth. "What are you making?" He looked almost embarrassed. "Christmas is coming. Thought the little ones might appreciate some toys." Sarah's throat tightened. "You needn't do that." "I want to." His eyes met hers. "Your family has become important to me." The word family hung between them, weighted with meaning neither dared explore. That night, after the children were asleep, Sarah and Aaron sat by the fire, a rare moment of adult conversation in a house dominated by youthful needs. "Did you ever have a family of your own?" Sarah asked, darning socks by firelight. Aaron stared into the flames. "Almost. Was engaged to a girl back in Missouri. Margaret. Fever took her before the wedding." "I'm sorry," he nodded, accepting her sympathy. "Been wandering since. Never found a reason to stop until now." His gaze lifted to hers, then away. Sarah felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. "And you, do you ever hear from Robert?" The question stung, but less than it once had. "No, some of the townspeople received letters from California. They say the conditions are harsh, many men returning empty-handed or not at all." "Do you think he'll come back?" Sarah's hand stilled. "I've stopped expecting it, stopped hoping too, if I'm honest." Aaron nodded, understanding in his eyes. "The children miss him, especially the boys." "Yes. They need a father figure." "I'm not trying to replace him," Aaron said quickly. Sarah smiled sadly. "Sometimes I think he replaced himself long before he actually left. The Robert who rode away wasn't the man I married." December transformed the landscape, heavy snow isolating the ranch from town. Christmas approached, bringing both excitement and melancholy to the Jenkins household. Sarah worried about presents for the children. There was simply no money for luxuries, but Aaron disappeared one morning with the horse and returned with a mysterious sack and a triumphant smile. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. The children woke to find hand-carved toys beneath each of their pillows: a horse for James, a soldier for Joseph, a spinning top for Timothy, a doll for Abigail, a rattle for William, and a tiny cradle for Rose. For Elizabeth, Aaron had crafted a beautiful jewelry box with her initials inlaid in darker wood. Sarah received her gift privately, a delicate wooden comb for her hair, polished to a shine. "It's beautiful," she whispered, touched by his thoughtfulness. "It suits you," he replied simply. That night, after the celebration of a Christmas feast made special by Aaron's hunting skills, Sarah found him again in the barn, checking on a mare about to foal. "The children are asleep," she said. "Even Elizabeth, finally." Aaron looked up, smiling. "They had a good day. Because of you." Sarah stepped closer. "Aaron, I don't know how to thank you for all you've done." He shook his head. "You've given me a home, Sarah, a purpose. That's thanks enough." The air between them changed, charged with unspoken feelings that had grown through shared work, meals, and the raising of her children. Aaron moved first, cautiously, giving her every chance to retreat. Sarah didn't. His hand, rough from work but impossibly gentle, touched her cheek. "I should go," she whispered, but made no move to leave. "You should," he agreed, his voice husky. Neither moved away. Instead, in the quiet of the lantern-lit barn, surrounded by the smells of hay and horses, Aaron Fletcher kissed Sarah Jenkins for the first time, tentatively, respectfully, but with undeniable passion. When they parted, Sarah pressed her forehead against his chest, conflicted. "It's too soon," she murmured. Aaron lifted her chin gently. We have time, Sarah, all the time you need. January brought blizzards that tested their preparations. February saw illness sweep through the household, first William with a fever, then the twins with hacking coughs. Aaron rode through dangerous conditions to fetch the doctor from town. Returning half frozen but triumphant, through it all, their feelings deepened, expressed in small gestures, a hand on a shoulder, shared glances over children's heads, late-night conversations by dying firelight. Aaron became indispensable not just to the ranch but to Sarah herself, a partner in every sense except the final one. March arrived with melting snow and the first stirrings of spring. One evening, as they sat on the newly repaired porch watching the sunset, Aaron broke their comfortable silence. Spring's almost here, he said carefully. Our agreement was until spring. Sarah's heart stuttered. Are you planning to move on? That depends entirely on you, Sarah. He turned to face her fully. I love you. I love your children. I want to stay, not as a hired hand, but as a husband and father if you'll have me. Sarah closed her eyes, emotions overwhelming her. Aaron, her words were interrupted by the distant sound of an approaching horse. Both turned to see a rider coming up the long drive, thin, bedraggled but unmistakable even after nearly 6 months. Robert Jenkins had returned. Sarah stood frozen as her husband dismounted from a borrowed horse. He looked older, thinner, his once proud shoulders slumped with defeat. Behind her, Aaron had risen too, his presence solid and reassuring. Sarah, Robert called, his voice carrying across the yard. I've come home. The children, hearing the commotion, spilled from the house. Elizabeth emerged first, her face hardening at the sight of her father. The younger ones showed confusion, the twins' recognition mingled with uncertainty, and Timothy pure joy as he ran toward the man. Pa's back, he cried, throwing himself into Robert's arms. Robert hugged his son awkwardly, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. I made a mistake, he called to her. I'm sorry. Sarah felt Aaron step back, giving her space. The gesture spoke volumes about his character, about his respect for her decision, whatever it might be. Children, go inside, she said firmly. But Ma, Timothy protested. Now, please. Her tone brooked no argument. Even Elizabeth obeyed, though she cast a worried glance toward Aaron before herding her siblings indoors. Sarah descended the porch steps alone, stopping several feet from her husband. Up close, she could see the ravages of his failed adventure, the gauntness in his cheeks, the haunted look in his eyes, the tremor in his hands. You abandoned us, she said simply. Robert flinched. I thought I'd make our fortune. I was wrong. The gold wasn't there, Sarah, just broken men and broken dreams. He reached for her hand. I've come back to my family. Sarah stepped away from his touch. We nearly lost everything. The children went hungry. Baby Rose cried for milk I couldn't provide, if not for Aaron. Robert's gaze shifted to the man on the porch. Who is this man, Sarah? The man who saved your family when you left them to die, she replied, her voice strengthening. The man who fixed your fences, hunted your food, repaired your roof, and held your children when they cried for their father. Robert's face darkened. You've taken up with another man, in my absence, in your abandonment, Sarah corrected, and Aaron has been nothing but honorable. Aaron descended the steps, keeping a respectful distance. Mr. Jenkins, he acknowledged, his voice level. Robert glared at him. This is my home, my family. A home and family you chose to leave, Aaron reminded him quietly, but this is between you and Sarah. I'll abide by her decision. With that, he walked toward the barn, his back straight, giving them privacy for a conversation that would determine all their futures. Robert turned back to Sarah, desperation in his eyes. I made a terrible mistake. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and the children. Sarah studied the man she had once loved with her whole heart. Where have you been these past 2 weeks, Robert? Your letter arrived 14 days ago. He looked away. I needed time to think. More time away from your responsibilities, she shook her head. The children needed you, I needed you, and you chose to leave us. I'm back now, he insisted. Yes, you are, Sarah acknowledged. And you'll always be their father, but you're no longer my husband in any way that matters. Robert's face crumpled. You're choosing him over me. After 15 years of marriage, I'm choosing the man who stayed over the man who left, Sarah replied steadily. I'm choosing the children's welfare over your pride. I'm choosing reliability over promises. You can't just replace me. You replaced yourself, Robert, when you decided gold was worth more than your family. Sarah softened slightly. You're welcome to stay tonight, see your children. But tomorrow you need to go. Where? Wherever you were for the past 6 months when we needed you. Sarah turned toward the barn, her decision made. I'll have Elizabeth bring you some supper. The night passed tensely. Robert slept on the porch, refusing to leave entirely. The children, confused and emotional, asked questions Sarah answered as honestly as age allowed. Aaron kept his distance, respecting the family's need to process this unexpected return. Morning came with Robert still determined to reclaim his place. Sarah found him repairing a broken wagon wheel, an obvious attempt to demonstrate his usefulness. The children need their father, he argued when she approached. You need a husband. I have one, Sarah replied quietly. Not legally, perhaps, but in all ways that matter. Robert's hands stilled. You can't mean that, drifter. Aaron is no drifter. He's a man who chose us when you chose gold. Sarah straightened. The children do need their father, Robert. You can visit them, be part of their lives, but this is no longer your home. And if I refuse to leave, then you force me to choose between the children's confusion and their security. Sarah met his gaze unflinchingly. I will choose their security every time. Something in her resolve must have finally reached him. Robert's shoulders slumped in defeat. I really have lost everything, haven't I? You lost us by choice, Robert. Remember that. He nodded slowly. I'll go to my brother's in Carson City. It's close enough to visit the children. That would be best. Robert gathered his few belongings, said painful goodbyes to the children, Elizabeth cool and distant, the younger ones tearful and confused, and mounted the borrowed horse. I did love you, Sarah, he said as a parting shot. In my way. I know, she answered. But love isn't just a feeling, Robert. It's a choice you make every day, and you stopped choosing us long ago. As Robert rode away, Aaron appeared beside her, having kept a respectful distance throughout the confrontation. Are you sure, Sarah? He asked quietly. She turned to him, seeing the man who had chosen her family when they had nothing to offer but need. I've never been more certain of anything. That evening, after the children were settled, their emotions ranging from Timothy's tears to Elizabeth's quiet relief, Sarah joined Aaron on the porch where he sat whittling a new toy. I've been thinking about your proposal, she said, sitting beside him. Aaron set down his knife. I meant every word, Sarah, but if you need more time after today, I don't, she interrupted. Life is uncertain, Aaron. These past months have taught me that. What I'm certain of is you, your character, your heart, your love for me and my children. She took his hand. Our children, if you're still willing. Aaron's face transformed with joy. More than willing, honored. He dropped to one knee before her. Sarah Jenkins, will you marry me? Let me be a father to your children and a husband to you for all our days. Yes, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes, Aaron Fletcher, I will. Their wedding took place in May when wildflowers dotted the Nevada landscape. The ceremony was small, just family and a few neighbors who had come to respect the quiet cowboy who had saved the Jenkins ranch. Elizabeth stood proudly beside her mother, baby Rose in her arms. The twins had polished their shoes to a shine, and Timothy had practiced carrying the rings until he could do it in his sleep. As Sarah and Aaron exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish one another until death parted them, Sarah felt the weight of months of fear and uncertainty lift from her shoulders. Looking into Aaron's steady eyes, she saw not just today's joy but tomorrow's promise. The ranch flourished under their combined efforts. Aaron's knowledge of cattle and Sarah's determination proved a formidable combination. The children blossomed with stability, returned to their lives, Elizabeth allowed to be a girl again rather than a second mother. The boys learning ranching from a man who valued their help, the younger ones secure in the knowledge they were loved and protected. 1 year after their wedding, Sarah gave birth to a son they named Michael. Aaron wept when he first held the boy, overwhelmed by this tangible proof of their love. The other children crowded around, examining their new brother with wonder and only mild jealousy. He looks like you, Sarah told Aaron as they watched the baby sleep that night. Poor child, Aaron joked, but his eyes were tender as they moved from the infant to his wife. "Thank you for giving me a family, Sarah." "Thank you for being the partner I needed when I thought all was lost," she replied, reaching for his hand. "For seeing strength in me when I felt weakest." "You were never weak," Aaron corrected, "just overburdened." Outside their window, Pyramid City stretched toward the mountains, and beyond them, California with its false promises of easy fortune. Sarah felt no bitterness now, only gratitude for the unexpected path her life had taken. The abandoned wife had found not just help but love. The cowboy who appeared on her doorstep had found not just purpose but belonging. Together, they had built something neither could have created alone, a genuine partnership based on respect, shared struggles, and the daily choice to love. As night fell over the ranch, bringing the peaceful sounds of settled animals and sleeping children, Sarah and Aaron sat together on the porch, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him. No words were needed between them, now just the comfortable silence of two people who had found in each other exactly what they needed, exactly when they needed it most.